What would you do if you found $50,000? Would you keep it? Would you turn it in? Today I'm going to tell you about Marcus, an unemployed delivery driver who made a choice that changed his life forever. When Marcus found a wallet containing $50,000 in cash, he didn't hesitate. His decision shocked everyone. The businessman who lost that money was so moved by Marcus's integrity that he did something incredible. This story will make you believe in the power of doing the right thing, even when nobody's watching. It's about character, honor, and how one honest act can transform two lives in ways you never imagined. If this story touches your heart, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and let me know in the comments what you would have done in Marcus's shoes. Now, let me tell you exactly what happened on that cold Tuesday morning that changed everything. Mine story. It was 6:30 in the morning on a Tuesday in downtown Chicago, and Marcus Williams was walking to catch the bus. The November wind cut through his worn jacket like a knife. He'd been unemployed for 3 months now, ever since the delivery company he worked for went out of business. His savings were gone. His rent was 2 months behind. His landlord had given him until the end of the week to come up with the money, or he'd be out on the street. Marcus had spent the previous day walking from business to business, filling out applications, asking if anyone needed help. Nothing. The economy was tough, and at 47 years old, he wasn't exactly what most employers were looking for. His back ached from years of lifting boxes and packages. His hands were rough and calloused from hard work. But his spirit wasn't broken. Not yet. As he walked down Michigan Avenue, heading toward the bus stop, something caught his eye. There, lying next to a fire hydrant, was a brown leather wallet. It looked expensive. Marcus glanced around. The street was empty except for a few early commuters hurrying to catch their trains. No one seemed to be looking for anything. Marcus picked up the wallet and opened it. What he saw inside made his breath catch in his throat. There were bundles of $100 bills, more money than he'd ever seen in one place. His hands trembled as he counted. 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, $50,000 in cash. For a moment, Marcus just stood there, staring at the money. $50,000. That would solve all his problems. He could pay his rent, buy groceries, maybe even get his car fixed so he could look for work outside the city. He could breathe again. He looked around once more. Still no one in sight. Who carries $50,000 in cash anyway? Maybe it was drug money. Maybe whoever lost it wouldn't even report it missing. But then Marcus looked at the driver's license. In the wallet, Robert Schoon, age 52, with an address in one of the wealthy neighborhoods north of the city. There were credit cards, business cards, family photos, a picture of Robert with what looked like his wife and 2 teenage daughters, all of them smiling at some family gathering. Another photo showed Robert with an elderly woman who was probably his mother. Marcus closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He thought about his own mother, who had raised him alone after his father left when Marcus was 8. She'd worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table and clothes on his back. She'd always told him that character wasn't what you did when people were watching. Character was what you did when nobody was looking. Do the right thing, Marcus. He could hear her voice saying, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Marcus looked at the money one more time. $50,000. Then he closed the wallet, put it in his inside jacket pocket, and started walking toward the police station, 6 blocks away. The desk sergeant looked skeptical when Marcus walked in and said he'd found a wallet with a large amount of cash. How much cash? The sergeant asked. $50,000, Marcus replied. The sergeant's eyebrows shot up. 50,000? You sure about that? Marcus nodded and placed the wallet on the counter. The sergeant opened it, saw the money, and immediately called his supervisor. Within minutes, Marcus was sitting in a small office, telling his story to Detective Sarah Rodriguez. So, let me get this straight, Detective Rodriguez said. You found this wallet on the street, saw there was $50,000 inside, and decided to turn it in. Yes, ma'am? And you're unemployed, behind on your rent? Marcus shifted uncomfortably in his chair. How did you know that? Lucky guess, the detective said with a slight smile. Look, Mr. Williams, what you did today is remarkable. Most people wouldn't have made the same choice. I just did what my mother taught me. Marcus said quietly. Detective Rodriguez nodded. Well, we'll contact Mr. Chun and let him know we have his wallet. You should know there's probably going to be a reward. Marcus shook his head. I don't want a reward. I just want to make sure it gets back to the right person. 2 hours later, Robert Chun burst through the doors of the police station. He was a well-dressed Asian man in his early 50s, wearing an expensive suit but looking completely frazzled. His hair was disheveled, and there were dark circles under his eyes. My wallet, he said breathlessly to the desk sergeant. Someone called and said, You have my wallet. Detective Rodriguez came out to meet him. Mr. Chun, I'm Detective Rodriguez. Yes, we have your wallet. A good Samaritan turned it in this morning. Robert's shoulders sagged with relief. Oh, thank God. I thought it was gone forever. The money, there was a lot of money in there. $50,000. The detective confirmed. Can you tell me why you were carrying so much cash? Robert ran his hand through his hair. I'm a small business owner. I have a chain of restaurants. Yesterday, I sold one of my locations to another restaurant owner who insisted on paying in cash. I was supposed to deposit it this morning, but I must have dropped the wallet somewhere between my car and my office building. I've been retracing my steps all morning, calling everyone I know. My wife was ready to call the FBI. Detective Rodriguez smiled. Well, you can thank Marcus Williams for your good fortune. He's the one who found your wallet and brought it in. Marcus Williams. Is he here? I need to meet him. I need to thank him. He left about an hour ago, the detective said, but I have his contact information, if you'd like to reach out to him. Robert took down Marcus's phone number and address. That afternoon, he drove to Marcus's apartment building. It wasn't in a good neighborhood. The building was old and run down, with broken windows and graffiti on the walls. Robert climbed 3 flights of stairs to apartment 3B and knocked on the door. Marcus opened the door, still wearing the same worn jacket from that morning. When he saw Robert, his eyes widened in surprise. Mr. Chun. Yes, I'm Robert Chun. You found my wallet this morning. Marcus nodded. I'm glad you got it back safely. Can I come in? I'd like to talk to you. Marcus's apartment was small and sparse. There wasn't much furniture, just a worn couch, a small television, and a folding table with 2 chairs. But it was clean and tidy. I can't begin to thank you for what you did, Robert said, as they sat down at the small table. That $50,000 wasn't just money to me. It represented months of hard work, the sale of a restaurant that had been in my family for 10 years. If I'd lost that money, it would have been devastating. Marcus nodded, but didn't say anything. I want to give you a reward, Robert continued. I know you probably need it. The police detective mentioned, You're going through a tough time. Marcus shook his head. I appreciate the offer, Mr. Chun, but I can't take your money. I didn't return your wallet for a reward. I did it because it was the right thing to do. Robert stared at Marcus for a long moment. Tell me about yourself, Marcus. What kind of work do you do? I was a delivery driver, Marcus said. Worked for the same company for 12 years, until they went out of business 3 months ago. I've been looking for work ever since, but it's tough out there. Most places want younger guys. What did you like about delivery work? Marcus thought about it. I liked meeting people, I guess. Being out on the road, solving problems when packages got mixed up or addresses were wrong. I took pride in making sure people got what they ordered when they needed it. Robert nodded slowly. I have 5 restaurants in the Chicago area, he said. We do a lot of delivery business, especially since the pandemic started. Good delivery drivers are hard to find. Most of them don't care about customer service. They just want to drop off the food and move on to the next order. That's not how I was raised, Marcus said. My mother always told me that every job is important if you do it right. Doesn't matter if you're the CEO or the guy sweeping the floors. You do your best. You treat people with respect, and you take pride in your work. Robert leaned back in his chair. Marcus, I have a proposition for you. I don't just need delivery drivers. I need someone to run my delivery operations. Someone who understands customer service, who knows the business from the ground up. Someone I can trust. Marcus blinked in surprise. You're offering me a job. I'm offering you more than a job, Robert said. I want you to be my partner in expanding the delivery side of my business. I've been thinking about starting a separate delivery company that could serve not just my restaurants, but other businesses too. I need someone who understands the business and who has integrity. What you did today proved to me that you have both." Marcus stared at Robert in disbelief. I don't understand. You don't even know me." "I know enough," Robert said. "I know that when you found $50,000 and you had every reason to keep it, you chose to do the right thing instead. I know that you've worked the same job for 12 years, which tells me you're loyal and reliable. I know that you care about doing quality work and treating customers right. That's exactly what I need in a business partner. But I don't have any money to invest," Marcus protested. "I can barely pay my rent." Robert waved his hand dismissively. "I'll provide the startup capital. Your investment will be your knowledge, your experience, and your character. We'll split the profits 50-50 once the business is established." Marcus felt tears welling up in his eyes. "Mr. Chun, I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Robert smiled, "and call me Robert." 6 months later, Marcus was standing in the office of Chun and Williams Delivery Services, looking out the window at a fleet of 12 delivery vehicles with the company logo on the side. The business had grown faster than either he or Robert had expected. Marcus's attention to customer service and his understanding of the delivery business from a driver's perspective had been invaluable. They were already talking about expanding to other cities. Robert walked into the office carrying 2 cups of coffee. "The Mitchell account just signed their contract," he said, handing Marcus one of the cups. "That's 15 new restaurants we'll be serving." Marcus shook his head in amazement. "Sometimes I still can't believe this is real." "Believe it," Robert said. "You earned this. Marcus, your honesty that day didn't just give me back my money. It gave me a business partner I can trust completely. That's worth more than $50,000. Marcus thought about that morning 6 months ago when he'd found the wallet. He thought about how different his life might have been if he'd made a different choice. He thought about his mother's words, about character being what you do when nobody's watching. "You know," Marcus said, "my mother always told me that doing the right thing would come back to you eventually. I never imagined it would come back like this." Robert nodded. "Your mother sounds like a wise woman." "She was," Marcus said quietly. "I just wish she could have lived to see this." "I think she can see it," Robert said, "and I think she's proud of the man she raised." The story of Marcus and Robert spread throughout their community and eventually went viral on social media. People were inspired by Marcus's integrity and Robert's generosity. But for Marcus, the real reward wasn't the business success or the recognition. It was the knowledge that he had honored his mother's memory and stayed true to the values she had taught him. 1 year after finding the wallet, Marcus moved into a new apartment in a better neighborhood. He had money in the bank for the first time in years. The business was thriving, and he and Robert had become genuine friends. But Marcus never forgot where he came from or the lesson his mother had taught him. On the anniversary of finding the wallet, Marcus visited his mother's grave. He brought fresh flowers and sat beside the headstone for a while, telling her about everything that had happened. "You were right, Mama," he said softly. "Character really is what you do when nobody's watching. And doing the right thing really does come back to you, sometimes in ways you never could have imagined." As he walked away from the cemetery, Marcus felt his phone buzz with a text message from Robert. "Board meeting at 3. The investors from New York want to discuss our expansion plans. Can you believe we're talking about opening offices in 5 new cities?" Marcus smiled as he typed back his response. "On my way, partner." The unemployed delivery driver who had found a wallet with $50,000 was now the co-owner of a successful business with dozens of employees. But more importantly, he was a man who could look at himself in the mirror every morning and know that he had stayed true to his values, even when it would have been easier to compromise them. The story of Marcus Williams and Robert Chun became a modern parable about the power of integrity. It reminded people that character matters, that honesty is still valued in the world, and that sometimes doing the right thing when nobody's watching can lead to blessings you never could have imagined. In a world where it often seems like dishonesty is rewarded and good people finish last, the story of Marcus and Robert offers hope. It shows that there are still people willing to do the right thing, even when they have every reason not to. And it shows that sometimes, just sometimes, the good guys really do win. Marcus had learned something that his mother always knew. True wealth isn't measured in dollars and cents. It's measured in the relationships you build, the trust you earn, and the legacy you leave behind. When Marcus found that wallet on a cold Tuesday morning, he found more than $50,000. He found his destiny. The partnership between Marcus and Robert continued to flourish. Their delivery service became known throughout Chicago, not just for its efficiency, but for its integrity. They treated their employees well, paid fair wages, and always prioritized customer satisfaction over short-term profits. Other businesses began reaching out to them, wanting to learn their secrets. "It's not a secret," Marcus would tell them. "We just treat people the way we want to be treated. We do what we say we're going to do. And we remember that every customer, every employee, every person we interact with is somebody's son or daughter, somebody's mother or father." Robert often marveled at how Marcus's moral compass guided every decision they made. When they had the opportunity to cut costs by reducing worker benefits, Marcus insisted they find other ways to save money. When competitors tried to poach their clients by offering lower prices, Marcus focused on providing better service rather than engaging in a price war. "You know what the difference is between us and our competitors?" Marcus asked Robert one day as they reviewed their quarterly reports. "What's that?" "They're trying to build a business. We're trying to build something that matters." 5 years after finding the wallet, Marcus and Robert's delivery service had expanded to 12 cities across the Midwest. They employed over 300 people and had contracts with hundreds of restaurants and retail businesses. Marcus had bought a house, gotten married to a wonderful woman named Linda who shared his values, and was talking about starting a family. But success hadn't changed him. He still remembered every employee's name. He still insisted on personally reviewing customer complaints to make sure they were resolved properly. And every morning, he still thought about his mother's words about character being what you do when nobody's watching. The story of the unemployed delivery driver who returned $50,000 had become legendary in Chicago's business community. Marcus was frequently invited to speak at business conferences and community events. Young entrepreneurs sought his advice. Established business owners wanted to know how he had built such a successful and respected company in such a short time. It started with a choice. He would always begin his speeches. "A choice I made on a cold Tuesday morning when I found something that didn't belong to me. I could have kept it. Nobody would have known. But my mother raised me to believe that who you are when nobody's watching is who you really are." Marcus would go on to explain how that one decision had set everything else in motion. "When Robert offered to make me his partner, it wasn't because I was the smartest guy he knew or the most experienced. It was because he knew he could trust me. And trust is the foundation of every successful relationship, whether it's personal or business." The audience would always be captivated by Marcus's story, but he never presented himself as a hero. He always emphasized that he had simply done what any decent person should do. "I'm not special," he would say. "I just did what my mother taught me." The real hero in this story is Robert Chun, who saw potential in an unemployed delivery driver and was willing to take a chance on him. He's the one who turned my honesty into an opportunity. Robert, for his part, would always give Marcus credit for the company's success. "Marcus brought something to our business that you can't teach and you can't fake," he would tell people. Integrity. When your customers know, they can trust you completely. When your employees know, you'll always do right by them. When your partners know, you'll keep your word no matter what. That's when you build something that lasts. As their 10th anniversary approached, Marcus and Robert decided to do something special. They established the William Scunn Foundation, a nonprofit organization that provided job training and small business loans to unemployed workers who were struggling to get back on their feet. 10 years ago, I was where a lot of these people are now," Marcus said at the foundation's launch event. "Unemployed, behind on rent, wondering how I was going to survive. I was lucky enough to have Robert believe in me. Now, we want to give other people that same chance." The foundation's first project was a job training program for delivery drivers. Marcus personally designed the curriculum, focusing not just on driving skills and customer service, but on professional integrity and work ethics. Being a delivery driver isn't just about getting from point A to point B. He would tell the trainees, "You're representing your company every time you knock on someone's door. You're building relationships. You're solving problems. You're making people's lives a little bit easier. That's important work, and you should take pride in doing it right. Many of the program's graduates went on to work for Chun and Williams Delivery Services. Others started their own businesses or found positions with other companies. But all of them carried with them the lessons Marcus had learned from his mother and reinforced through his own experience. Character matters, integrity pays off, and doing the right thing when nobody's watching is the true measure of a person. Linda often watched her husband speak to groups of young people and marveled at his ability to inspire them. "You realize you've become exactly what your mother hoped you'd become," she told him one evening after he'd finished speaking to a group of high school students about the importance of making ethical choices. Marcus smiled. "I think about her every day, every decision we make for the business. Every time someone asks my advice, I ask myself what she would want me to do. It's like she's still guiding me." "She is," Linda said, taking his hand. "Through the values she taught you and the example you're setting for others." As Marcus reflected on the journey from that cold Tuesday morning to the successful business and meaningful life he now enjoyed, he was struck by how one moment of choice could change everything. If he had kept that wallet, if he had rationalized taking the money because he needed it so desperately, his life would have taken a completely different path. He might have solved his immediate financial problems, but he would have compromised his integrity. He would have broken faith with the values his mother had instilled in him, and he never would have met Robert, never would have become a business owner, never would have had the opportunity to help others the way the foundation was now doing. Character is destiny. Marcus often told people, "The choices you make when you think nobody's looking determine the kind of person you become, kind of life you build." I found $50,000 that day, but what I really found was my future, because I made the choice to do what was right instead of what was easy. The story of Marcus Williams and Robert Chun continued to inspire people around the world. It was featured in magazines, turned into a documentary film, and became a case study in business schools. But for Marcus, the real measure of success wasn't the publicity or the accolades. It was the knowledge that he had stayed true to his mother's teachings and had built something meaningful with his life. On quiet Sunday mornings, Marcus would sometimes drive to the spot where he had found the wallet all those years ago. The neighborhood had gentrified since then. The old buildings had been renovated, new businesses had opened, and the street looked completely different. But Marcus could still remember exactly where he had been standing when he picked up that brown leather wallet and made the decision that changed his life. Standing there, he would think about all the people whose lives had been touched by that moment of choice. Robert, who had gotten his money back and gained a trusted business partner, the hundreds of employees who now had good jobs with Chun and Williams Delivery Services, the thousands of customers who received better service because of the company's commitment to integrity, the young people who had been inspired by his story to make better choices in their own lives. One wallet, $50,000, one moment of decision, and ripples that continued to spread outward, touching more lives than Marcus could have ever imagined. As he drove home to his family, Marcus would often whisper a prayer of gratitude to his mother. "Thank you, Mama, for teaching me right from wrong. Thank you for showing me that character is what matters most. Thank you for raising me to be a man who does the right thing, even when nobody's watching." The unemployed delivery driver, who found a wallet with $50,000, had become more than a successful businessman. He had become a living example of the power of integrity, a testament to the truth that good character really is its own reward, and proof that sometimes, just sometimes, doing the right thing can lead to blessings beyond your wildest dreams. But this story doesn't end with success and recognition. The most powerful part of Marcus Williams's journey was still to come, and it would test everything he had learned about character, integrity, and doing the right thing. 3 years after establishing the Williams Gun Foundation, Marcus received a phone call that would challenge him in ways he never expected. It was from a young woman named Sarah Martinez, a reporter for the Chicago Tribune, who had been investigating fraud in local nonprofits. "Mr. Williams," she said, "I'm calling about your foundation. We've received some serious allegations, and I wanted to give you a chance to respond." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "What kind of allegations?" "We have documents suggesting that someone has been embezzling money from the foundation. The amount could be as high as $200,000. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. The foundation was his pride and joy. The way he and Robert gave back to the community, the idea that someone might be stealing from an organization designed to help struggling people, made him sick. "Who?" he asked quietly. "I can't reveal my sources yet," Sarah said, "but I wanted to ask you directly. Did you know about this? Have you been aware of any financial irregularities?" Marcus sat down heavily in his chair. "No," he said firmly. "I had no idea. If what you're saying is true, we need to get to the bottom of it immediately. Mr. Williams, I have to ask this directly. Are you involved in this embezzlement?" Marcus felt anger flash through him, but he kept his voice calm. Senora Martinez, I found a wallet with $50,000 15 years ago and returned it when I was desperate for money. What makes you think I would steal from a charity that helps people like I used to be? I'm just doing my job, sir. I'll be in touch when we're ready to publish." After she hung up, Marcus immediately called Robert. Within an hour, they were sitting in their accountant's office, going through every financial record the foundation had ever produced. What they discovered was devastating. David Park, the foundation's financial director whom they had trusted completely, had been systematically stealing money for over 2 years. He had created fake invoices, set up shell companies, and diverted funds that were supposed to help unemployed workers get back on their feet. "How much?" Robert asked the accountant. "Based on what I can see so far, at least $300,000. Marcus put his head in his hands. "David has a wife and 2 kids. I was at their house for dinner just last month. Why would he do this?" The investigation revealed that David had been struggling with a gambling addiction. He had started with small amounts, always intending to pay the money back, but his addiction had spiraled out of control, and the amounts had grown larger and larger. When confronted, David broke down completely. "I'm sorry, Marcus. I'm so sorry. I know what this foundation means to you. I know how hard you worked to build it. I kept telling myself I would pay it back, but I couldn't stop gambling. Every time I won a little, I would bet more, trying to win enough to replace what I'd stolen." Marcus looked at this man he had trusted, this person he had considered a friend, and felt a mixture of anger, disappointment, and pity. "David, how could you steal from people who have nothing? These programs were supposed to help families put food on the table, help people find jobs so they could support their children." David was crying. "Now, I know. I've destroyed everything. I've destroyed your reputation, the foundation's reputation. I've hurt all the people we were supposed to help." The scandal hit the newspapers. The next day, the headlines were brutal. "Charity founded by Good Samaritan hit by embezzlement scandal." Some articles questioned whether Marcus and Robert had been involved or whether they had been negligent in their oversight. Marcus found himself in the unfamiliar position of being the target of suspicion and criticism. People who had once held him up as an example of integrity now wondered if his reputation had been built on a lie. Some of the foundation's donors pulled their support. Several businesses canceled their contracts with Chun and Williams delivery services. "This is what I was afraid of," Robert said one evening as they reviewed the damage reports. "We built this company on trust, and now people are questioning whether they can trust us." Marcus stared out the window of their office. 15 years ago, I made one good decision, and it changed my life. Now someone else made a bad decision, and it might destroy everything we've built. What do you want to do?" Robert asked. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he straightened up and looked at his partner. "We do what my mother would have wanted us to do. We take responsibility. We make things right. And we rebuild trust, one person at a time." The next day, Marcus called a press conference. Standing in front of a room full of reporters and cameras, he took full responsibility for the foundation's failure to detect the embezzlement. "I trusted David Park completely," he said. "That trust was betrayed. But that doesn't excuse the fact that Robert and I failed in our duty to properly oversee the foundation's finances. We let down the people we were supposed to help, and we let down the donors who believed in our mission." Marcus announced that he and Robert would personally repay every stolen dollar, even if it meant selling their own assets to do so. They would implement new financial controls and bring in an independent auditing firm to review all of the foundation's operations. "Some of you might be wondering if this changes who I am," Marcus continued. "If the person who returned $50,000 15 years ago would really steal from a charity today, I can't make you believe in my character. Character isn't something you can prove with words. It's something you demonstrate through actions, over time, consistently. He paused and looked directly into the cameras. What I can tell you is this. We will make this right. Every person who was supposed to receive help from our foundation will receive that help. Every donor who contributed money will see their dollars go to the intended purpose. It might take us years. It might cost us everything we own. But we will restore trust in this organization and in our name. The press conference was widely covered, and the reaction was mixed. Some people admired Marcus's willingness to take responsibility and make restitution. Others remained skeptical, wondering if this was just damage control. But Marcus didn't focus on the public reaction. He focused on doing the work. He and Robert took out loans against their business to repay the stolen funds. They implemented new financial safeguards that went far beyond what was legally required. They brought in oversight committees and independent auditors. More importantly, they personally reached out to every person who had been affected by the embezzlement. Marcus spent weeks calling people who had been enrolled in job training programs that had to be canceled because of the missing funds. Mrs. Johnson, he said to one woman who had been counting on the foundation to help her get certified as a medical assistant, "I know our program was supposed to start last month, and I know you were depending on it. I want you to know that we're going to make this right. Can you come in tomorrow so we can discuss how to get you enrolled in a program immediately?" It was exhausting, heartbreaking work. Marcus had to look people in the eye and explain that the organization he had created to help them had failed them, but he also got to show them that he wasn't going to abandon them. Slowly, gradually, trust began to return. The new job training programs, now with rigorous financial oversight, began to produce graduates who found good employment. The small business loan program, restructured to prevent fraud, helped dozens of entrepreneurs start successful companies. David Park was prosecuted and sentenced to 5 years in prison. But before he was sentenced, he asked to meet with Marcus one more time. "I know you have no reason to forgive me," David said. "I know I've destroyed your reputation and hurt people you care about. But I want you to know that watching you take responsibility for my mistakes, watching you work to rebuild what I destroyed, has changed me. You could have thrown me under the bus and protected yourself. Instead, you've shown more character in the worst situation than most people show in the best situations." Marcus looked at his former friend and felt something unexpected. Not forgiveness exactly, but understanding. "David, we all make mistakes. Some are bigger than others. The question isn't whether you made a mistake. The question is what you do next. What do you mean? When you get out of prison, if you want to make amends, really make amends, come work for us. Not in finance," Marcus said quickly, "but in the programs, help teach people about making good decisions. Help them avoid the kinds of choices that led you to this place." David stared at him in disbelief. "You would do that after everything I've done? My mother used to tell me that redemption is always possible for people who truly want to change. I don't know if you want to change, David, but if you do, we'll help you." 5 years after the embezzlement scandal, the Williamstone Foundation was stronger than it had ever been. The crisis had forced Marcus and Robert to build better systems, to be more careful with their oversight, and to be more deliberate about their mission. But the real strength of the foundation came from something else: the way Marcus had responded to the crisis. When faced with a situation that could have destroyed his reputation and his life's work, he had chosen to take responsibility rather than shift blame. He had chosen to make restitution rather than declare bankruptcy. He had chosen to rebuild trust rather than walk away. You know what I learned from all this? Marcus told a group of business students who came to study the foundation's turnaround, character isn't just about the big moments when you find a wallet full of money. Character is about how you respond when everything goes wrong, when you're blamed for things that aren't your fault, when the easy thing would be to give up. One of the students raised her hand. "Do you ever regret returning that wallet 15 years ago? If you hadn't become famous for your honesty, maybe this scandal wouldn't have been such big news." Marcus smiled. "You're asking if I wish I hadn't done the right thing because doing the right thing made me a target when someone else did the wrong thing." The student nodded. "Here's what I've learned," Marcus said. "Integrity isn't something you turn on and off depending on whether it's convenient. It's not something you do because you expect to be rewarded. It's who you are, all the time, in every situation. When David stole from our foundation, it was a test of whether my integrity was real or just for show. I'd like to think I passed that test. Another student asked, "What advice would you give to someone who's facing a moral dilemma?" Marcus thought about his mother, about the lessons she had taught him, about the journey from that cold Tuesday morning to this classroom full of eager young faces. "Ask yourself who you want to be when nobody's watching," he said. "Ask yourself what kind of person you want to be able to look at in the mirror every morning for the rest of your life. Ask yourself what your mother would want you to do, or your children, or the best person you know. The answer to those questions will tell you what choice to make." The final chapter of Marcus Williams's extraordinary journey would prove that some stories never truly end, they just evolve into new beginnings for others. On a crisp morning in October, 30 years after finding the wallet that changed his life, 77-year-old Marcus Williams received an unexpected visitor at his home. Linda answered the door to find a well-dressed woman in her 40s, holding the hand of a young boy who looked to be about 8 years old. "Senora Williams, my name is Jennifer Chun Rodriguez. I'm Robert Chun's daughter. Is Mr. Williams available? I have someone very special I'd like him to meet." Linda smiled warmly and invited them in. Marcus emerged from his study, walking a bit slower now, but with the same kind eyes and genuine smile that had characterized him throughout his remarkable journey. "Jennifer, what a wonderful surprise," Marcus said, embracing Robert's daughter. "And who is this handsome young man?" The boy looked up at Marcus with curious eyes. "Are you the man who found the wallet?" he asked directly. Marcus chuckled. "I am indeed. And what's your name, son?" "I'm Marcus Rodriguez," the boy said proudly. "I'm named after you. My mom says you saved our family." Jennifer's eyes filled with tears as she watched the interaction. "Mr. Williams, I need to tell you a story. When I was 16, I was angry and rebellious. I was getting into trouble at school, hanging out with the wrong crowd, breaking my parents' hearts. One night, I stole $300 from my father's wallet." Marcus listened intently, his expression gentle and non-judgmental. "When my father discovered the money was missing, he could have called the police. He could have sent me to juvenile detention. Instead, he sat me down and told me your story. He told me about the day you found his wallet with $50,000 and returned it, even though you were desperate for money." Jennifer paused, collecting herself. "He said that you had shown him what true character looked like, and he wanted to give me the chance to show that same character. He told me he knew I had taken the money, but he was going to let me choose what to do next." "What did you choose?" Marcus asked softly. "I was so ashamed," Jennifer continued. "But I returned the money and confessed everything. My father didn't punish me. Instead, he had me volunteer at a homeless shelter every weekend for 6 months. He said that if I was going to steal from my family, I needed to understand what real poverty looked like." Marcus nodded approvingly. "That experience changed my life, Mr. Williams. I saw families who had nothing, parents who couldn't feed their children, people who had lost everything but still treated each other with kindness and dignity. I realized how privileged I was and how selfishly I had been acting." Jennifer looked down at her son. "I became a social worker because of that experience. I've spent the last 20 years helping families in crisis. And I named my son Marcus because I wanted him to grow up knowing the story of a man who chose integrity when it was difficult, who showed that doing the right thing really can change the world." Young Marcus looked up at his namesake. "Mom says you're a hero." Marcus knelt down to the boy's level. "I'm not a hero, Marcus. I'm just someone who had a good mother who taught me right from wrong. The real heroes are people like your mom, who spend their lives helping others. That's what heroes do. Mom says I'm supposed to always tell the truth and help people, just like you did." "Your mom is very wise," Marcus said. "And you know what? I think you're going to do great things in this world, just like she has." After Jennifer and young Marcus left, Linda found her husband sitting quietly in his study, looking at an old photograph of his mother. "That was beautiful," she said, sitting beside him. 30 years later, and your story is still changing lives." Marcus smiled. "It's not my story anymore, Linda. It belongs to everyone who's been touched by it, everyone who's chosen to do the right thing because they heard about that Tuesday morning. Jennifer's story, Timothy's story, Maya's story, David's redemption story. They're all part of something bigger now. What do you mean? I mean that what started with one wallet has become something I never could have imagined. It's become a living reminder that character matters, that integrity has power, that doing the right thing creates ripples that never stop spreading. That evening, Marcus received a call from Timothy Rodriguez, who was now the CEO of Chun & Williams Delivery Services and had built it into a national corporation known for its ethical business practices and employee care. "Marcus, I wanted to let you know about something incredible that happened today," Timothy said. "One of our drivers in Phoenix found a backpack with $15,000 in it. The money belonged to a family who was traveling to pay for their daughter's cancer treatment. Did the driver return it? Not only did he return it, but when he learned what the money was for, he organized a fundraiser among his fellow drivers. They raised another $8,000 to help with the family's medical expenses." Marcus felt his heart swell with pride. "What was the driver's name?" "Carlos Martinez. He's been with us for 3 years. When I asked him why he returned the money, he said he'd heard the story of Marcus Williams and the wallet. He said he wanted to be the kind of person who does the right thing when nobody's watching." "Except somebody is always watching?" Marcus said quietly. "What do you mean?" "We're always watching ourselves. Timothy, every choice we make, we have to live with. Every decision we make adds to or takes away from the person we want to be. Carlos Martinez returned that money because he wanted to be able to look at himself in the mirror and like the person looking back." 2 months later, Marcus received another call, this one from his literary agent. "Marcus, I have some interesting news. There's a filmmaker who wants to make a movie about your story. Are you interested?" Marcus considered the offer carefully. Over the years, he had been selective about how his story was told, always insisting that any telling focus on the universal lessons about character rather than making him into some sort of saint. "What kind of movie?" he asked. "They want to focus on the ripple effect of your decision. Not just your story, but the stories of all the people whose lives were changed because you returned that wallet. Timothy's story, Jennifer's story, the people helped by your foundation. They want to show how one act of integrity can create generations of positive change." Marcus agreed to the project, with one condition. All profits from the film would go to establishing scholarship funds for students who demonstrated exceptional character, regardless of their academic performance or financial need. The movie, titled When Nobody's Watching, became a surprise hit. It wasn't flashy or action-packed, but audiences were hungry for stories about good people doing the right thing. The film sparked conversations in schools, churches, and workplaces about the importance of integrity in daily life. More importantly, it inspired a new wave of wallet returns. Social media filled with stories of people finding lost items and returning them to their owners. Local news stations began regularly featuring Good Samaritan stories. The hashtag character matters became a rallying cry for people who wanted to promote ethical behavior in their communities. Marcus watched these developments with amazement and humility. "I never thought that finding a wallet would start a movement," he told a reporter. "But isn't that the point?" the reporter asked. "You didn't return the wallet to start a movement. You returned it because it was the right thing to do." That authenticity is exactly what makes your story so powerful. As Marcus entered his 80s, he began to face the reality that his time to influence others directly was limited. But he took comfort in knowing that the principles he had lived by would continue through the thousands of people who had been touched by his example. The Williamston Institute for Business Ethics had become one of the most respected programs of its kind in the country. The Williamston Foundation had helped over 50,000 people find jobs and start businesses. Chun & Williams Delivery Services employed 12,000 people across 30 states, all of whom were trained in the company's philosophy of integrity-first business practices. But perhaps Marcus's greatest legacy was simpler and more profound. He had shown the world that character still mattered, that doing the right thing was still worth doing, that integrity was not just an old-fashioned ideal but a practical foundation for success and happiness. On his 85th birthday, Marcus was surrounded by hundreds of people whose lives had been changed by his example. Timothy was there with his family, now including grandchildren named Marcus and Linda. Jennifer Chun Rodriguez was there with her son Marcus, now a teenager who volunteered regularly at homeless shelters. David Park was there, having become one of the Foundation's most effective counselors for people struggling with addiction. Robert Chun, now in his late 80s himself, stood to address the gathering. 35 years ago, I lost a wallet with $50,000. I thought it was the worst thing that could happen to me. Instead, it became the best thing that ever happened, because it brought Marcus Williams into my life. Robert paused, his voice thick with emotion. Marcus didn't just return my money, he returned my faith in human nature. He showed me that there are still people in this world who will do the right thing, even when it costs them. And he taught me that business success means nothing if it's not built on a foundation of integrity and service to others. Marcus listened to the tributes with gratitude and wonder. How would that scared, unemployed delivery driver become this person surrounded by so much love and respect? The answer, he knew, lay in his mother's simple wisdom. Character is what you do when nobody's watching. But as Marcus looked around the room at all the faces, young and old, representing every race and background, united by their commitment to living with integrity, he realized that his mother had been wrong about one thing. Somebody is always watching. We're watching ourselves, and our choices determine not just what we accomplish, but who we become. In his brief remarks that evening, Marcus shared this insight with the gathering. When I found that wallet 35 years ago, I thought I was making a choice that only affected me and Mr. Chun. I had no idea that choice would ripple out to touch so many lives, to create so many opportunities for others to choose integrity over convenience. He looked directly at young Marcus Rodriguez, now 17, and planning to study social work in college. The most important thing I can tell all of you, especially the young people here tonight, is this. Every choice you make matters. Not just the big, dramatic choices that everyone will hear about, but the small, daily choices that no one will notice. Those choices accumulate over time to create the person you become and the life you build. Marcus paused, feeling the weight of nearly 9 decades of life experience. Choose integrity even when it's difficult. Choose kindness even when others don't deserve it. Choose to help others even when there's no reward. Choose to be the person your best self wants you to be. Not just when people are watching, but especially when they're not. As the evening wound down, Marcus found himself standing alone on the balcony of the community center where the celebration was being held. The city lights stretched out below him, and somewhere in those lights were people facing their own moral choices, their own moments of decision. Linda joined him on the balcony. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "I'm thinking about all the wallets that are being found tonight. All over the world," Marcus said. "All the people who are choosing between keeping what they found and returning it to its owner. I'm thinking about all the small acts of integrity happening right now that nobody will ever hear about. And," Marcus smiled, "and I'm thinking that most of them will make the right choice. Not because they heard my story, but because someone in their life taught them the same thing my mother taught me. That character is what you do when nobody's watching." He took Linda's hand and looked up at the stars. "The wallet was just the beginning. Linda, the real story is what happens next, in the lives of all the people who choose to live with integrity. That story will never end." 6 months later, Marcus Williams passed away peacefully in his sleep. His funeral was attended by thousands of people, from business leaders to delivery drivers, from politicians to people who had been helped by his foundation. The eulogies spoke not of his wealth or his awards, but of his character and the example he had set. Timothy Rodriguez, now in his 60s and a grandfather himself, delivered the final eulogy. Marcus Williams proved that an ordinary person can have an extraordinary impact, not through grand gestures or dramatic actions, but through the simple choice to do what's right, day after day, year after year, even when nobody's watching. Timothy paused, looking out at the crowded church. But here's the thing about Marcus's story. It doesn't end with his death. It continues every time someone chooses integrity over convenience. It continues every time someone returns a lost wallet, helps a stranger, tells the truth when lying would be easier. It continues every time we choose to be the people our best selves want us to be. After the funeral, Linda Williams found an envelope on Marcus's desk with her name on it. Inside was a letter he had written to be read after his death. "My dearest Linda," it began. "If you're reading this, then my journey on this earth is complete. I want you to know that finding that wallet 35 years ago was the second best thing that ever happened to me. Meeting you was the first. I hope the story of the wallet continues to inspire people long after I'm gone. Not because I was special, but because the choice I made that Tuesday morning is a choice everyone can make. Every day, in small ways and large, we all have opportunities to choose character over convenience, integrity over advantage, service over selfishness. The wallet was returned, the partnership was formed, the businesses were built, the foundation helped thousands of people. But none of that was the real point. The real point was that we all have the power to create positive change in the world, one honest choice at a time. Take care of yourself, my love. And remember, somebody is always watching the person in the mirror. Make sure that person likes what they see. The letter was signed, "With all my love and gratitude for a life well lived together, Marcus." Today, 40 years after Marcus Williams found a wallet with $50,000, his story continues to inspire people around the world. The Williams Gun Institute trains thousands of business leaders annually. The Winston Foundation has helped over 100,000 people find jobs and start businesses. Chun and Williams Delivery Services, now run by Timothy's son, Carlos Rodriguez, employs 20,000 people and is known internationally for its ethical business practices. But the real legacy of Marcus Williams isn't measured in numbers or statistics. It's measured in the countless individual choices made by people who heard his story and decided to live with greater integrity. It's measured in the wallets returned, the truths told, the promises kept by ordinary people who want to be extraordinary in their character. Every day, somewhere in the world, someone finds something that doesn't belong to them. They face a choice between keeping it and returning it. And sometimes, just sometimes, they remember the story of an unemployed delivery driver who found $50,000 and chose to do the right thing. They remember that character is what you do when nobody's watching, and they make the choice that creates ripples of goodness that will spread far beyond what they could ever imagine.